Why is it important in terms of brain development, executive function development, that it's not only about emotions, like being connected and so nice when the child will tell you, I love you, mommy or daddy, but there is more to that. So could you explain what is this and why is it so important to have this connection and how this affects to the further development?
Yeah, definitely. To have a cognitive, to have an impact on cognitive processes as well is really important. So I started looking at this from the perspective of low income families. We tend to think that the negative impact of low income families on children is because of their education. They lack education and money. But when you look at low income children, generally, there's so much variability. Many of them are doing fine. They're doing well. They're thriving. So I wanted to know, it has to be more than education, right? It has to be more than income. And so looking at the issue of executive function of the parents themselves, if you have a child who's not self-regulated, that child is going to grow up and perhaps stay self-regulated. And there's lots of research on looking at the long-term effects of self-regulation or that developmental behavior. So, kids who don't have very good executive function or regulatory skills. There's a study by Moffat, a longitudinal study, finding that as adults you make all sorts of mistakes. You marry the wrong person, you buy the wrong house, you can't regulate everything. And so I was thinking, well, that also has to do with parenting. Maybe your parenting is also affected because you can't regulate your own emotions. And so if you can't regulate your impulses and behaviors, then you are also not being able to set up an environment where it's conducive for children development, right? And I think so we're beginning to kind of look at that, and the results are not clear yet, but from other work we do know that mother's executive function is predictive of children's executive function. The mechanism is unclear. How does this happen? So if you look at what a child needs to grow up and develop, generally predictability is super important, right? Organize the environment in a way that there are routines. And at 6 in the afternoon we brush our teeth, we eat and brush our teeth or whatever. Those routines are really important for brain processes, the neurobiology of behaviors and all this stuff. And so if you don't have an environment that supports that development, perhaps that is disrupted in some way. And so lack of routines, so parents who might not be regulated might not hold routines clearly for the child, so there's a little more disorganization in the home. They may be a little more controlling rather than letting, it takes a lot of patience to say, I remember when my child was being, autonomous since the minute she was born, and you wanted to go out the door at 7:00 and she insists on putting her tights on, and it's going to take 3 hours because they get twisted, and oh my goodness, is this a moment, so moments like this where, maybe you just get up earlier, an hour early, knowing that she's going to want to put her tights on, or don't you, you organize the environment in a way that that helps that behavior. If you're not so self-regulated and you as a parent and you have poor executive function skills, you're not going to be planning a lot. So you're not going to be able to set up an environment that's conducive for this type of a thing. And there's a mismatch. And so I believe that, so one of the things that might have a negative impact on executive function of children is that the lack of executive function of the parents, which might be translated into this environment that is not organized, there are not routines, there's not expectations, it's not predictable, and it makes children more difficult.
If I want to encourage, let's say, the development of the executive function of my child, being like working memory, cognitive function, etc., control. So what would be the behaviors or the type of interaction maybe I would want to being involved in?
I would say the first thing is to understand parents, what's a level of self-regulation? Be reflective. Are we able to turn off the TV so we can just play with the child? Are we able to also put away our own desire to do something fun to do? So because children are observant and watching us, if the adult can do this, then the children mimic this behavior. So I would think role modeling is really important, not just on being kind and good, but also, I really want to go out, I really want to watch that show, but I should do something else, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is very simple, is just have simple routines where, we have a certain time in the morning, we have breakfast or we eat together. Prioritize family time always, because there's so many things going on there. You have to remember to have the table. You have to remember not to play with the dog because now you're eating. You have to remember there's so many things, cognitive skills, short-term memory, planning for this dinner, executive function, you have to sit for a couple minutes, and all these other things. So I think just those simple routines are packed with good things. Turn off the television. I really would recommend this. It's so disturbing to me when we go into the home and we are videotaping a father and a child is cranking his neck, and I'm saying to my students, what is this child looking at? Like, here's a dad playing with her, and the child now knows that there's this fun bird on the television that comes every 2 seconds, and that intermittent, it's actually making the child choose a TV rather than play with her dad. And that I found problematic, that the child is choosing a thing that doesn't talk and doesn't love her back versus her child. So parents really have to regulate our behavior around media and television and all this stuff. It's hard because we're all addicted to it. But I think that's important. Yeah. The other thing is trying to understand, and we have an intervention now with child development intervention, just giving knowledge about child development to parents to understand where children are on average on their development. Like, our intervention is very beautiful. We have these books with different information about what are children doing at certain points of development and how parents can help the child reach milestones. So for example, at 9 months, our fingers are really clumsy, so we drop things a lot. So don't be mad, Mom, if I drop this, so things like that. So encouraging the parent to understand. So sometimes we'll see a parent and we go, oh my God, she broke my favorite. Well, she didn't break your cup. You drop her fingers, she can't hold it, whatever. So, so at 12 months, he might be, look, I can talk. You can talk to me, but don't get mad at me because I still don't understand. I only, like with my own child, I remember I will say to her, okay, you're going to get dressed and then come downstairs and then we're going to go out and then she's like, I can only remember one thing. And I gave her 5 things to do. Oh, so slow down, understand, understand what children can and cannot do. Yes, push them out of their comfort zone, but there's a limit to, so really, the problem with the child development knowledge is that it's much easier for middle-class parents than for low-income parents to have access to the information as you're doing now, to be able to say, at 9 months, generally children do this. But again, your child is different, so you're going to watch out for that. It's not a cookie cutter. Your child might have like parents with reactive children. They find it a whole nightmare because, I watched a parent saying, he sleeps on my arm. In the minute I move a finger, he's up. So I'm not sleeping. So she's like this the whole night, sleeping because the child is so reactive, wakes up at everything. And so we usually don't help parents understand that children bring something to the table through their temperament, through the health status. A child who's colic or who's not doing well is going to demand more time. A child who's very reactive is going to be very difficult in some ways. So really understanding your child and how you can best support that development, knowing just broad parameters. Education, information is very helpful. And in the US, we do a terrible job of giving information on child development to low-income parents. We do it through the pediatrician's office at this well-being checkups, but the information is so boring and it's so dense and it's so unclear and it's, so I don't know how it is in Cyprus, but here was just awful. It's long and
Yeah,
probably the same.
it's same. I think it's the pediatrician would be quite formal anyway, just more focused on the health, much less on the development of the child.
Exactly. And pediatricians also, I find many of them don't know about child development. They just, so ours used to say, no soda. That's it. Don't give him soda. Okay. Any more? Anything
Yeah.
else? But, it really understanding that, one of my professors used to say, with every asset that the child has, there's a liability. So the child knows how to talk, but now he's saying no to you, he's talking back, and the child can walk, and now he's running into the street. And so, really try parents to understand how this child, what they need to do to support this child's development and what to expect. It's really not easy. It's hard. It's so hard in so many ways. So, but there's simple things like, I keep saying, parents, what you do in the morning routines is great. The Friday nights at grandma dinner, great. Don't believe them that is not. Those are really important things. Prioritize kindness, compassion. Great. Things where they have to practice to remember things, and where they have to wait. A simple conversation. Two adults are having a conversation. A child interrupts all the time. Adults are like, because we think a child center is a good parent, so the child is interrupting all the time. He's not learning to wait. He's not learning. You can say, call me. We're talking. Please wait. If you're not hurt, we can, So, but often I find the point that you brought early is time. Like, we parents are running out of time, so we go, oh, just put him in front of television. Oh, just give him the cookie. Like, just this time. So children begin to understand that, this parent is not very consistent. And if I cry hard enough, or if I do this, I may just get in my way. So really consistency and predictability, which any parent can do, which is hard for many families. It's, also, reading, for example. Reading is something that we used to tell parents, you must read to your child every night 15 minutes, or your child will be illiterate for life. That is not true. There are other things that you can do. You can tell stories, you can sing songs. It has the same effect. So if a family is low income, or have, many of the parents that I talk to, low income families, will say reading is not their thing, and now they feel, oh my God, I have to go to work and I can't read, so my child, is doomed. And I would say, no, just, oral stories are great. Singing is good. It's just being able to understand that, what are the most important things that you can do. Love, patience, routines at home, so the child can see. And then just understanding that you're not going to get it right all the time. That, forgive yourself, and child will forgive you. Love is really strong.